Manhwa starts with comments of audience. They thought he was just crazy. But despite this, he still said that he needed to step away from business for just a little while. Due to the terrible events that have been happening lately, humanity has been under a great threat from terrible monsters, and it has been as dangerous as ever. But thanks to the appearance of hunters, this disaster turned into one big opportunity. As it turned out, the monsters used the divine energy and materials that were given to humans as the only chance for survival. Because of this, many hunters were created and they were all divided into classes ranging from G to SSS. G-class abilities were generally not much different from normal humans, and because of that, it wasn't clear why. Once a certain class was discovered in a hunter, changing that class occurred in very rare cases. One girl with dark hair was putting up posters urging other people to join the hunters and help them save the world. The dark-haired girl looked at the poster and wondered if she understood that not everyone was given the opportunity to become a strong class hunter. She was saddened, it seemed to her, that she was very far from this class, so she shifted her gaze and looked at the piece of paper in her hands. It was an application for a change of class. Song Miri hoped that she would be able to get a better class and achieve great success, but she lost hope every time because she understood that this was the 10th rerun and nothing was successful. Song Miri wondered if all her hard training was worth it if she just wasted her time. Suddenly, someone interrupted her sad thoughts and asked if everything was okay with her. After that, Miri turned around and saw a man in front of her. She thought it was another fan who wanted to know her rank since she was already popular at school. As it turned out, it was the same author of the web novels. He held a piece of paper in his hands and asked the girl to treat him with understanding because he never did that. But this made her very angry because it seemed to her that the man was somehow mentally ill or even very dangerous, and because of this, she could have some problems. Suddenly, someone started calling him. He apologized to the girl for this and began to take his phone out of his bag. The man began to worry very much and said that he urgently needed to answer this call and began to run quickly to the side. Song Miri did not understand what was happening around her at all and what did this man want from her at all. But her thoughts were interrupted by a woman at the table who asked if she was number 49 named Miri. Miri confirmed this and the woman asked her to go into the examination room. The young lady went to the big room where she was supposed to get her results of all the exams and retakes. After receiving this, she very quickly went outside to take a better look at it and compare it with the previous results. She looked at the piece of paper that had her rank written on it and saw that it was again a B+, just like last time. Frustrated, she destroyed that paper because she realized that she had failed to achieve a better rank again and her story was repeating itself again. It seemed like it was the final end for her and she wouldn't be able to get a better rank. Suddenly, she was very surprised and looked at her smartphone because something very strange was happening. It was an emergency message from the security service saying that a divine gate had opened on Seoul Street and a spiked bull had come out. Because of this, all A-class hunters who were nearby were called to come to the scene. This message really surprised the student very much. She could not believe that a spiked bull could appear on their planet. After that, the events are transferred to the same street. One reporter reported that this terrible creature appeared unexpectedly for everyone and low people all around. Because of this, complete chaos was created in the city. The situation got out of hand because the local security agencies found out that this spiked bull was a demon inside and because of that he could very easily destroy the entire city. Ilshin was right at the scene of the events and held one little girl's hand to protect her. They ran very fast, but suddenly the girl fell to the ground and scared the man very much. Frightened, he went up to her and asked if everything was okay with her because she was crying very loudly. But before the little girl could say anything, they saw that there was a giant dark shadow above them and because of that they were even more scared. It was the same terrifying spiky bull that was standing before them and it seemed that he would deliver the final blow to them right now. The man was very scared. He understood that they no longer had any chance to escape and because of this he pressed the little girl to him to protect her. But suddenly at that moment something very strange happened because a lot of lightning and energy began to appear around this demonic bull and because of this it began to scream very loudly. Then the same Mary appeared in the air with a lightning bolt in her hands and it was clear that she was the one who dealt a powerful blow to this monster and saved people's lives. The giant animal was really very surprised. It did not understand what was happening at all. And who was this stupid girl who stopped him? Noticing that everything was fine with the bull, she began to worry very much because she struck a very powerful blow that was supposed to destroy the bull. But she didn't want to give up, so she started using even more lightning bolts to hit him even harder. Using the lightning combined with the storm, it sent this powerful blow straight towards this giant animal. After she did, she landed on the ground to survey the situation. She wasn't sure if she managed to do it all because the scary animal was really very strong and could survive this blow. You couldn't see anything. There was very thick smoke from the fall of this giant monster to the ground. At that moment, two red eyes appeared in the middle of the smoke looking straight at this girl. After that, the angry bull got up very quickly and started shouting loudly and headed towards the girl to destroy her after this terrible blow. The superheroine was very scared. She did not expect such a turn of events, and now she understood that she needed to defend herself. The giant monster quickly hit her with his strong arm. The girl did not expect this, so she missed this blow and flew to the side. She flew a little further and hit the asphalt, completely splitting it. It was a really powerful blow that could have killed the girl. Fortunately, she managed to survive, but she was very weak and now she had many times less strength than at the beginning. There was a lot of dust in her mouth and she started coughing because of it. However, despite all this, she began to get back on her feet. She thought that this monster was of a stronger level than Class 8. Unexpectedly, she saw the same man in a tracksuit holding a little girl in his arms. The superheroine was very scared. It is clear that there were other people here. Behind her was the same terrible devilish bull, which did not want to give up and was even angrier, but she was more concerned about people. She understood that it could be very dangerous for them and they were weaker than her and could die. The situation was getting worse. She had a very important decision to make. After that, she stood in front of the people and told them to run away from the scene very quickly. The superheroine didn't know how long she could hold off this scary creature, so she asked people to run as fast as they could. When the monsters saw this, they began to scream even louder and headed in her direction to finally destroy the one who interfered with them. She knew she had very little chance, but in her head she was thinking about people and knew she needed to bide her time. But at that moment, the lightning bolts that were in her hands began to suddenly disappear. The girl was frightened. She realized that her strength was weakening. Meanwhile, the angry bull was already close to her and it seemed that he was going to destroy her right now with his big horns. Being scared to death, she started calling her father and mother because she realized that she had no chance. In her mind, she remembered how once, long ago, she sat and cried remembering her parents. She couldn't just leave it like that because on that day her parents died due to the terrible creatures that invaded the planet. Filled with hatred, she promised herself that she would destroy all these monstrous creatures. Hearing these words, the woman who was next to her turned to the angry girl and said that she had no right to have such thoughts. The woman's eyes were burning with blue paint and she said that Mira has no right to think about revenge and she should concentrate. Parting with her memories, she gathered her strength and began to create a new magical sphere. At that moment, the crippling pain of all the civilians who died because of the monsters echoed in the middle of his head. A very strange blue sphere began to form around her, completely enveloping her body and spirit. It seemed as if God had moved into the middle of her body, for very strong lightnings began to issue from her eyes and she began to scream very loudly. It felt as if she was unconscious and unable to control her actions because now all thoughts were about revenge and nothing could stop her. Raising her hands in the air, she began to create a sphere many times larger and stronger, in the center of which was lightning combined with the dark energy of pain and suffering. Fear completely gripped her body and she directed all her strength and energy straight at the head of the monstrous bull that wanted to strike her. This impact was extremely powerful and within a radius of 5 kilometers all people could see and feel the power of this energy. A few hours passed and everything around was in order again. People took to the streets and began to thank the superheroine en masse for saving their city. Everyone was really amazed that she managed to do that. Reporters who wanted to shoot video also arrived at the scene, but the guards did not allow them to do anything. Suddenly the Wonder Girl regained consciousness and she realized that she had succeeded in defeating the spiked bull. She was very surprised, did not understand how it could happen and what it was because she did not remember anything. The power she felt a few hours ago was truly amazing and she had never felt such power before in her life. It seemed that she had set a new record. Then the same man in a blue suit and a little girl approached her. He leaned over to the superheroine and thanked Mira for saving her life, but she said that a man shouldn't do that because it was her duty and that's what any other hunter or hero would do in her place. She also added that she was glad that the people were all right and that she managed to save them because that was the most important task. After thanking his savior very much once again, the man in the suit went his way, not believing that he managed to survive such a terrible attack, but the girl in the helmet was only pleasantly surprised and said goodbye to the boy and the little girl. Suddenly her emotions changed and she was very scared that now she might be in big trouble. After all, this man thanked her by calling her name and because of that he knew more unusual people. Then some voices appeared in her head telling her about the mighty power of the index finger, but the girl was only frightened, not understanding what it was. The man understood that today was indeed a very difficult day for them, and because of that he decided to go home, but Mira only had one thought because she did not know who this man really was. After a few hours the evening came and the events were brought to the big bridge where people in love usually spent their time, but the main character was not in love and he had a completely different mission in this place. Standing near the bridge, our hero began to think that today he could really die and his little niece could die with him, and all these things that happened to him today were because of that stupid phone and what he did in it. It seemed to him that this terrible phone attracted only failures and troubles, and after that he swung. Events returned to the past. A few days ago the man was sitting in a restaurant. There were not many people. It was an ordinary day and he was working as usual on his laptop to write a new web novel for his readers. However, today he was in for a setback because he had no new ideas coming into his head, but tomorrow he had work deadlines. Suddenly his phone started making strange noises. It startled him and he looked at his phone lying on the table. He had a really big problem with concentration, but despite this he did not want to continue working. Instead he decided to delete the unnecessary applications that were on his smartphone. After some time of searching he came across one interesting application that he saw for the first time in his life. This surprised him because it seemed to him that he had never downloaded this application to his smartphone. The author of the web novel decided to open this application and suddenly a photo of a box with sharp teeth appeared. After a few seconds a text also appeared welcoming him to the program called Creator of the Gods. The confused man did not understand what it was. It seemed to him that it was just some kind of game. A few more seconds passed and the game fully loaded. Some ordinary small black ant appeared in front of him. The strange ant produced some text that was very crooked but which had very terrible symbols. It all annoyed the man. It seemed to him that it was just some stupid application that could not even work properly. Everything was so confusing that he didn't even know what he was supposed to do in this game, so he decided to just try tapping on the screen. However, after he clicked on the screen the black ant simply died and it seemed like the whole game was over, but suddenly a gold coin quickly started to come out of the phone. Seeing this the man was unreal scared. This gold coin flew at a very high speed and hit the protagonist directly in the head and flew further to the side. After that she hit his laptop screen again and smashed his keyboard. Suddenly a text appeared in his program that the ant was dead and 1 gold coin was issued as a reward for it, then also that the man was one step closer to becoming a god. After reading this the man couldn't believe that it was reality because now he had a gold coin in his hand that had just flown out of his phone. The thought arose in his mind that he might now have some abilities. He could be a hunter. Shocked by the text and its absurdity he decided to go to the same building where he was taking the exam for his rank and class level. The woman who received the people loudly told Mr. Ilshin to pass. When the men sitting behind heard the man's name they began to laugh very loudly because it was indeed a very terrible name. Suddenly the woman smiled and congratulated the boy because as it turned out the test showed that he had awakened the hunter in himself. Hearing this our hero was very surprised because he could not believe that this could really be reality. It seemed that it was all just some kind of joke. In his head he imagined how he could now become a powerful hunter of the best rank and everyone around him would be in awe of him. But suddenly his thoughts were interrupted by a woman who continued and said that he was G class. He felt that all his optimism disappeared somewhere because he realized that this was the lowest rank and he was not much different from ordinary people. But the woman did not stop. She continued to speak. She said that he had the ability to create matter and it was a truly unique ability that was unique to humans. The main character continued to read the entire team that the woman gave him because it seemed that something was wrong. At that moment the woman at the table asked the man if he wanted to become a hunter. He was interested in the offer and asked how much it cost. She explained that it was really very cheap and only cost him $1,000 and it was definitely worth the money. However, he was surprised when he heard the price. He thought it was just a waste of money and refused to sign up. All his dreams suddenly disappeared. He felt that he was too naive and all that was left in this life was just to write web novels. After that the tortured man went home and sat down to work on his laptop. It was already in order, but at one point it was 2 a.m. on the clock. It seemed to him that he was just wasting his life in vain because now he had very little time left for sleep. He was tired from work, so he decided to take a little break from his work, and because of that he took the TV remote in his hands to distract himself a little. The news was just playing on TV. It was a message that one S-class hunter, Beck, was there today. Yu Hyun began cleaning his dragon-level dungeon and the information just appeared that this strong hero of ours came out victorious from that place as well. With this good information mankind is 2 steps closer to their salvation and they will have less problems. But the main character was really very bored watching this news, so he switched the channel where there was a skin cream advertisement for the S-Class. The woman advertising this cream said that it was the only choice to protect her beautiful skin from horrible monsters. But the main character was very artificial because he was no longer bothered by all this terrible information about S-class heroes. He understood why everyone was talking only about these people. Hate filled his mind as he was just an ordinary G rank and was many times weaker compared to these hunters. He wanted the day to be over as soon as possible because it was really horrible, so he decided to just go to bed. But suddenly the phone which was on the table began to make some strange sounds and its display lit up. After that there was some very strange message and the screen started to glow even more brightly than before. The man wanted to ignore only these messages because he had a really terrible day today and was too tired to read what was written. But curiosity captured him because he did not understand who could write to him at 2 o'clock in the morning. Because of this he decided to open his eyes. Messages began to appear more often and the phone began to ring. This made our hero very angry because he understood how this could even be possible. After a while he sat on his bed and sent his phone very quickly to get even more gold coins thanks to this app. After each touch the black ant died and thanks to this he received even more coins. The author was not in the mood at all, because of which he pressed the screen as fast as possible to relax at least a little. A lot of coins were falling on the ground on which it was drawn, but the author of the web novels did not care because he pressed the screen only because of his anger. He did this for a long time until the sun began to rise and then he finally managed to fall asleep. He slept very sweetly and had very good dreams indeed after such a terrible day. But suddenly his dream ended. He woke up and began to rub his sleepy tired eyes. Suddenly his attention returned to what he had accomplished. He looked on the ground and saw coins, and on each coin was painted the number 100. Taking one coin in his hands he was very surprised because he understood that the number 1 was written on the former coins, but for some reason this one was written 100. Unexpectedly the phone which was lying on the bed started learning again and making some very strange sounds, and this attracted the man's attention. When the man opened the app he saw a greeting for the nameless god who could now open the god store because he had fulfilled all the conditions. A very strange red box just appeared in the air and there were 2 buttons with the text yes or no. This made the main character think because he understood that he had to make a choice. He really did not know what to choose because the day did not understand that it might be necessary for him to choose this way. But still curiosity got the better of him and he knew he wouldn't know until he tried. Then he confidently pressed his index finger on the phone screen and selected the yes button. After that already strange actions began to take place. Some strange energy began to appear around the phone and began to attract you with a magical light. Then the events moved to another place where 2 guards were standing. In the middle of the room was a man who wanted to thank the president of the Hunters Association and all the distinguished guests who had arrived. The man in the middle announced that a hunter had finally appeared in their country and had managed to open a hunter's shop. You'll hear it, the other costumed guests rejoiced that it finally happened. They were really impressed with this information because they understood that now they could buy items and skills that were many times better than their normal classes. At that moment the man in glasses clapped his hands and asked the new guests to enter the middle of the room. Then the large door opened and 2 people entered the room. A man in an expensive suit and a woman in a pink cat. After some time the saleswoman realized that the man in the suits was an S-class hunter named Kongwu who managed to unlock the hunter shop. The woman next to her was also an S-class hunter named Song Min, and she had come here to conduct a very important auction. A man with pink hair and wearing glasses greeted the new guests and invited them to walk further into the middle of the office. The man in glasses was very worried, but in spite of this he asked the hunter to show him the shop they had managed to reach. All politicians, judges, and other influential people were truly amazed. They understood that a historic event could happen right now for them. Khan agreed to do so, and after that began to create some very strange yellow sphere in his hands which was supposed to activate this very shop. The movements began to create a large release of air and all the papers that were in this room began to fly around. Politicians were also very impressed by this. After some time all this effect became many times smaller, so the people were very scared, but they were more concerned about the president and asked him if everything was okay, and the president confirmed it. After that the strange yellow sphere ended and the politicians took their seats again, mostly looking at the superhero. The president was puzzled because he saw nothing but all this commotion and frightened politicians who did not understand what was happening. But then his assistant asked him to be calm because the store was seen only by the person who activated it and another person. The woman in dark clothes said that now they would use her superpower called telepathy so that everyone could see a little something. After that, when she used this magical effect, all the people were very surprised because of their own eyes. The same hunter's shop appeared in the air. You can see different items and different prices for them. It seemed that all this was unreal. The men looked at it and were very much surprised, for it was some kind of magic that shone all around and showed strange objects in the shop. The man in the suit was very happy and said that he saw here all the objects that he had heard about in the myths and legends of monsters. After looking at the lightning god's grace item, he became very worried, already realizing that it was worth $30 billion. But the man next to him said it was really worth it as the item was very valuable. But suddenly their conversation was interrupted by the main president, who asked all the politicians to be attentive and listen to him. He explained that all politicians should be very careful because these decisions are very important for them and for their country. He added that because of this shop they could have big problems, and because of that they need to keep it all secret. To launch the project, Mr. Khan needs at least a few S-class hunters as security. But the woman who was nearby was not satisfied with this information because she was completely forgotten and no one talked about her anymore. Then the events are transferred to the same man from whom the greeting appeared because he fulfilled all the conditions for activating the store of the god. Seeing 2 buttons, he chose the yes button, wondering what might happen right now if he did. However, after that, when he did, everything just disappeared somewhere and things started to get really weird. He didn't understand what was going on. He felt like he was the same hunter as Kong Wu, although he understood that there was a big difference between G and S class. At that moment, a store of god appeared in the air. He had 372 gold and there were many different objects, but no names could be read. The man was very frightened. He could not understand what it was and how it could be possible. It seemed to him that all this was some kind of prank because he could not even read all these names and everything seemed very suspicious. Looking at all the price tags, his head began to spin because these were really very expensive items that he didn't have money for. However, suddenly his phone unexpectedly began to meet very strongly and give out some unknown gold stars. Despite all this, he was upset when he realized that he had only earned 300 coins in the entire night and the prices in the shop were many times more expensive. Having said that, something strange started to happen inside the app as the store just started moving from top to bottom. The prices of goods began to move very quickly and suddenly began to stop on their own, and now the man could afford to buy these goods. He was interested in this offer because he understood that now he could get to what this store was hiding. The desire to know what was inside clouded his mind and he did so, but then a message appeared that he had purchased the blind eye of God. After looking at the item blind eye, he began to worry very much, already realizing that it is worth $30 billion, but suddenly a description of this product appeared. Everything happened too fast. He didn't even have time to read what was written there when his eyes turned white. He started screaming very loudly and was very scared. Now he could not see anything at all and it seemed to him that he had died. Frightened, he simply let go of his phone and it fell straight to the ground, bouncing off the floor in the other direction. His eyes saw nothing at all. It seemed to him that he had now become blind for the rest of his life. This thought caused him even more fear. He wanted to find the phone to try to see something, but he couldn't find it because it was lying on the ground. But because of his blindness he could not see anything, so he hit his little finger very hard on some object. Pain and anger overwhelmed him. He began to scream loudly, cursing everything that was in this world and most of all this blindness. Suddenly things changed dramatically as his eyes became normal again and he could now see everything around him. He took a deep breath. He couldn't believe that it was over now because it was unreal scary. He was even more surprised because he realized that he could read everything that was written on all these items and on his phone. All the goods were very strange and related to God, and also the price was very expensive and the man could not afford it. He couldn't quite understand what it was. It seemed to him that it was some kind of dream and he just continues to sleep. When he looked at the items below, he was filled with fear as he understood why they cost so much money. He felt like he was some kind of superhero from his web novel, but disappeared when he mentioned that he was just a regular G-class and no one knows about him at all and everyone just talks about S-class. A new idea came to his head which stopped his thoughts and prompted him to take some action. He began trying to find all the items he could afford to buy as they could change his destiny. He started scrolling through all the items that were in the store to find something really good that he could afford. After a few minutes of searching, he stopped at the mighty finger of a god that could destroy everything. He was really interested in this offer because it seemed very good. He had no choice either, so he decided to buy it and see what could come of it. After he bought this item, his hands began to simply disappear, leaving only some strange smoke. As usual, it was built on the fact that he bought the mighty index finger of God. His mind was conflicted. He couldn't understand what this very strange power could do. Suddenly some new idea in his head struck him very hard. It seemed that he had found the answer to his question. The air conditioner which was in his room suddenly turned on and began to make strange sounds similar to the words finger of God. To do this he automatically turned off and spoke again about the mighty finger of God, but now it could be better understood. However, suddenly the action happened again and the air conditioner turned on and started talking about the mighty finger of God. As it turned out, all this was done by Ilshin. He would point his index finger towards the air conditioner and managed to turn it off. As he did this, he felt a very powerful force within him with which he could control all his belongings that were in his house. He decided to run it on other objects, so he pointed his finger in the direction of the television. He managed to turn it on without the remote. Scared to death, he couldn't believe that this was actually possible, as he now possessed a super magical property. He glanced at the finger to see if everything was clear in order. It seemed to him that it was now a remote control for all objects. He couldn't quite believe that it was really true, so he kept turning various items in his apartment on and off with his finger. It also worked on other gadgets. He managed to turn on his laptop and fully control all its actions, but then he laughed because he understood that he would not be able to write a web novel with the help of his divine index finger. Suddenly he was interrupted by the phone that was lying on the bed and started ringing suddenly. He got a call from someone unknown. It was some all-powerful director he didn't know. Frightened, he picked up the phone and greeted his acquaintance with a trembling voice. The man began to shout loudly that what was being dumped on me was incredibly funny and he had been laughing for 10 minutes. The director added that he did not expect this from our hero Ilshin. Meanwhile, Ilshin is surprised because he just wrote about his last actions. He understood how it could be funny. In a frightened voice he asked the man if it was true or if he thought it was not a lucky draw. The director confirmed this and said that his story has really huge potential, but said that there is one big problem with this story. The frightened man said he would fix the problem immediately if the principal explained it to him, but the man explained that the reason was that he had not yet seen the continuation of this beautiful plot in his mail. The director said it was really beautiful and asked the man when the next chapter was coming out. However, our hero was very scared because it seemed to him that the director was playing a trick on him all this time. After that, he promised that in 2 days he would write a continuation and send it to his mail. It seemed to him that killing these little ants created a plot for him, so he had an even greater desire to play this strange game. He did his best to earn a lot of coins, but he also added that he did not hold evil against all these ants, and in general his love for animals was boundless. He continued to press on the screen of his phone, really enjoyed the job as he was just working hard on his script. Nothing stopped him. Around him even more coins were flying out of his phone. It was like a dream. Coins became many times more. They scattered all over the room, but the man didn't care because he wanted to make as many coins as possible. But suddenly all the coins that had the number 1 on them began to glow and the number 100 began to appear on them. It seemed that it was simply impossible because they changed their value, and because of this the main character got rich many times faster. All attention was on this coin. I understood that the other coins began to disappear and one big one appeared because they understood that small coins turned into one big one. Unfortunately, there was only one large coin on the floor as he was not in business very long. Sadness appeared in his eyes because the items in the store were worth about 1 billion and even the cheapest item cost 1,000 coins. Flipping through all the items in the store, I came across one interesting item which was called the Grace of the God of Growth. It sounded way more useful than some billion coin items. The word growth made his heart beat faster and caused him great enthusiasm, so he decided to collect 1,000 coins and buy this skill. Then he began to work many times faster and now used 2 fingers unless he collected as many coins as possible. At that moment some strange message that the man could not read. There were some incomprehensible symbols in it and a big red ant appeared on the smartphone screen. The man pressed on her with his fingers, but for some reason she did not die as usual. The ant moved from side to side, did not want to die, thus surprising the main character because he had never seen such ants before. It was an insect. It didn't look like the others, and because of that the man wondered what he had to do. He sent this little animal closer. Now it began to occur to him that it could be the boss. Enthusiasm took over him. Maybe now he only had one desire: to destroy this main boss because he can get more coins. As soon as he fell asleep on this ant, it quickly walked to the side and evaded its death. All this began to annoy the man because he could not get into the annoying inheritance and destroy it once and for all. He was becoming just crazy. His desire to destroy this little ant grew exponentially. Now he wanted to do everything possible to get his way. His fingers began to press down on the phone screen as fast as possible to do his best, but then something strange began to happen that struck the man. He believed that it was possible. After all this wave of attack, he realized that he had not managed to hit the red animal even once. He couldn't understand how this red ant could be so fast. It seemed almost impossible. He just stared at the screen of his phone and was silent because now he had no plan on how he could pass this level and get his reward. The big red ant moved aside and stood on the right in the corner, and on the left stood all the black little ants who seemed to be servants. Our hero hated this game. He promised to kill all these game characters and lay all their families in families. He was doing the most important thing in order to get a reward. After some time, as the main character began to poke at the screen with all speed coins began to fall out and a message appeared that the number 801 was dead. There was a message that this ant was really a boss, and because of this the nameless god's karma became 800 units higher. Our hero poked at his screen for a very long time and earned a lot of money. After a while a message appeared that if he managed to get another 200 karma points he could get the status of a golden god, and after he gets the title he gets rewarded for all his hard work and time. But this man had been working for more than 16 hours and was too tired, so he just lay down on his bed and fell asleep. However, what was not expected was the voice of the message saying that the blind eye of the god had been activated. The great chest said that the nameless god was stalking his victim at the number 404. Then the events are transferred to some very strange cinema where the projector was showing a film. This big hall was empty and the big wall where the movie was supposed to be was just white paint and nothing. However, as it turned out, our hero himself was sitting in the middle of this hall and was looking at a large blank screen on which the film should be. After realizing all this he was very scared because he did not understand where he was and who was with him in the cinema hall. Fear gripped him because he did not remember how he crossed the cinema. It seemed to him that it was all some kind of terrible nightmare that he dreamed. Suddenly something began to blind the man. It was some very strange light that shone directly into his eyes. After taking a closer look he was very surprised because he realized that it was simply incredible. It was the same big scene in which some movie started. The main character didn't care about everything that was happening around him. He decided to just relax and wait for the end. After many hours of work he couldn't take in information very well and his brain wasn't working well. It made him look like a zombie. An unknown being was walking through a large dry desert and pondering the power of the Black Tribe's god. The mysterious character thought of a god trying to kill him because of his desires, which in his opinion made the god more of a demon because of all his sins. As it turned out, it was a big scary ant that looked like some kind of mutant. The scary animal understood that it didn't have much time left, so it must tell everything that happened to its friends. He continued to walk and after a while he came across a tunnel in a big mountain with a very strange inscription at the top. The giant monster was very angry at this situation. He understood that he had to act very quickly because he had very little time. The monster entered the middle of this cave with a lot of blood behind him because he was very badly injured after the fight. It was normal to walk through it. He held his great sword in his hand to at least somehow keep his balance and not fall. In the middle of the cave it seemed many times larger than outside. It was very dark and there was an eerie atmosphere. Some other strange animal was sitting inside eating something with a metal fork. But suddenly a giant monster stuck his sharp sword into this food and blood splattered all around. The monster was very hungry, so it was easy for his opponent despite the fact that she did not belong to him. His gaze was stern and his teeth were very sharp. No one dared to say anything to him for his insolent concession. After a while he entered a room where there were a lot of monsters sitting at tables and eating food. Seeing a large number of monsters, the Red Boss was very happy because he understood that he still had every chance for victory and revenge. Everyone in the room was very surprised to see someone who had entered their cave. Very quickly he struck his sharp sword on the ground, told them to listen carefully. With his creepy hair he said that he found out where all their food went because it was all destroyed by the god of the Black Tribe and it is a terrible beast. But luckily he managed to escape. But now they had to do something before this terrible god attacked them and destroyed all their families and their land. The dining monsters were surprised by what their friend was telling them, but they did not interrupt him and continued to listen to him. Suddenly everyone started laughing at me. They said that he was only a coward. To beat him from the field he should have stayed there until the end and died at the hands of this god. The red monster was shocked, but suddenly someone behind him shouted for all the monsters to shut up. After that suddenly all the animals that had dinner were fast asleep, like in the army. Then they were ready to follow orders. An old monster with a stick in his hands entered the room from behind. It was clear that it was their shaman. When the big monster with the sword saw the shaman he bowed to him and greeted him. The old animal saw the monster's number 808 in front of him, thought about this whole story. The old monster said that he felt the presence of evil and revenge, which the monster number 404 told him about. The weary monster explained that everything that was said was indeed true and unfortunately they were unable to defeat this evil creature. Unexpectedly he raised his red paw in the air and said that this was their land and no evil Po had the right to be on it. Because of this they needed to sort out and attack him. Monster 808 began to cry because he understood that the old sage believed him and that brought him hope. Suddenly he just started crying and I seemed to be delaying some very important information that I had forgotten to say. The old shaman came closer to the tired monster, took his search into the air and asked for nature to return to him from the village. The red ant was very surprised because she understood that all his wounds began to heal and at one moment he felt a lot of strength. The shaman praised his warrior for his efforts and said that he could now lead them on their journey against this terrible god. He was very confident and said that he would destroy with his own hands the spirit that came into their territory and took it over. All the other monsters were very motivated and said that they would be with their shaman until the end and help him kill this dark god. They united in one great force and were ready to listen to the parade to their great shaman to destroy everything around and prove justice together with him. Suddenly our hero woke up covered in sweat. He was very frightened because he had just seen this nightmare. I did not understand at all what it could be. It felt too real to him. It seemed like it could really be true but he wasn't sure. There was an eerie atmosphere because he did not understand whether he was dreaming about ants or whether evil ants were dreaming about him. Suddenly messages with strange text which he could not read because of symbols unknown to him began to arrive on his phone again for about a week. He opened the app again and was surprised to see that the evil red boss was back on the screen. His blood was boiling. It seemed that he had never been so angry in his life as he was now. It made him want to finish this boss right now, not forever. But his anger disappeared when the phone said that nature is against anger and is only for peace. Looking at his smartphone he saw that the same red evil ants from his dream were standing there talking about the need to restore justice. This until the death of my husband or it seemed was simply impossible since it was all just an ordinary dream. At that moment something unexpectedly jumped out of his smartphone very quickly and flew straight into his head. This blow was so strong that his head swelled up and for a long time he did not release from shock and pain. But suddenly blood began to flow from the place where some very strange object had flown. As it turned out it was the same old shaman who stood in the middle of the evil ants and directed some unknown magic towards the man. He also added in his old voice that they are fighting for nature and for justice. The shaman delivered another powerful blow directly at the man and said that nature refuses the evil of the gods. It was more painful than the previous one due to which the man grabbed his head and began to scream very loudly in pain. All the other evil monsters were very happy because they realized that their sage was really extremely strong and they were very happy to have him as their shaman. The big monster who was in torn clothes said that it would be a really very important day for them and after the victory they would all go home and celebrate the victory for a long time. He smiled and greeted the old sage but the old shaman said nothing and just stared. Suddenly a powerful yellow light appeared in the air and the old shaman said in a frightened voice that all the monsters were running away very quickly. No one understood what was happening as this strange light flew straight to their shaman and hit right in the middle sending out lightning. The big red ant raised its head in the air saw that there were 4 more of the same strange objects. He was very frightened and said that they were coming. This powerful light began to hit even harder and destroy their warriors. The monsters did not expect this and began to run back. As it turned out our hero simply punched the screen of his smartphone with all his might and thereby killed monsters. After each of his blows a message appeared that the monsters were killed. After a wave of such blows he managed to destroy the monsters numbered 404, 808 and others. He didn't want to stop, he was spitting hate and he kept hitting the screen of his broken phone with all his might. His eyes were glowing, it seemed that he was no longer in control of his actions. He didn't care that the phone was showing messages about the death of monsters. His blows were so powerful that a kind of thick smoke went from his phone all over the apartment. After a while he regained consciousness and began to cry bitterly, realizing that he had just completely destroyed his phone due to his anger. But at that moment a greeting from the game appeared from the broken phone because he managed to get the title of Golden God. As the thick smoke began to clear he saw that coins were scattered all over his room and now he was really rich. But he didn't care about that because his phone started making some very strange sounds that got him interested. The message that the karma of the nameless god was 1,000 points. After reading this the main character was surprised. After that the greeting appeared again because he had now received the title of Golden God and had many opportunities. A picture of death appeared and it was said that it was a title that could be obtained after 1,000 karma points, and with this title the luck of the nameless god would increase in future battles. After carefully reading the text Ilshan was surprised. He realized that now he will have a lot of advantages in the next battles. Then he laughed because he did not expect that he was given the status of a brutal killer because in his opinion he was the kindest person on this planet. The coins lying on the floor began to move strangely and it felt like they were starting to gather again to increase in size. But suddenly among all those coins a ring appeared which strongly attracted the man's attention. The puzzled hero came to take a better look at this strange object, so he took it in his hand but still could not understand what it was. After a few seconds its light began to decrease several times and the atmosphere around it became oppressive. From this ring, which the man liked very much, it was something like the smell of a fresh spring forest. This smell was relaxing and made you forget about all your problems. Because of this, it seemed from one character that it was the best anti-stress, but it was still a ring, so the man tried to put it on his little finger. After doing so, he began to feel some very strange aura and smell that began to spread throughout the room that he had never experienced in his life. All fatigue disappeared, his skin became many times better, and it seemed that he was completely reborn. At that moment some strange sound started coming from his phone again, which got him very interested, but no one knew what it could be. The blind eye of God was activated and it began to analyze the ring that was on the hero's hand. However, it did not take long, and after 3 seconds the analysis was completely completed, but the man did not understand what it all could mean. As it turned out, it was the ring worn by the monster number 808. The monster wore it to preserve the life force of the giant forest. It was the best choice to improve the performance. Luck smiled on the main character. He was very glad that he had this ring, but he also wondered if he was working the blind eye of the god on other items. Turning his gaze to another object, he wanted to analyze it as he had done with the ring, but it wasn't that easy. With a lot of effort he finally managed to activate the blind god's eye, and after a few seconds a complete analysis of his TV appeared. Analysis said the TV was 1 year old and had 3 months left on the warranty. An analysis of the laptop appeared, thanks to which it was possible to understand that Ilshin had already used it for a year and 2 months, and 6 months remained until the end of the warranty. The main character continued to analyze all the different objects that stood in the room. It was very interesting to learn useful information. Having made several dozen more analyses, he stopped because he was already quite tired of a large amount of unnecessary information. In his head he began to realize everything that had happened to him during the last time. All these thoughts tired him, but unexpectedly a very interesting thought came to him. During the last week his life had changed, and already now he possessed new abilities and was very different from ordinary people. Because of this he wondered if he was still the same ordinary G-class, because now he had every chance to move to a new level. He developed courage and bravery. He was sure that he could not be a miserable G-class, and because of this his class must be known. On the same day he went to the same building where the class was evaluated and asked for a re-evaluation. The woman was very surprised because she understood that the man had recently visited her and he could not raise his rank in class during this time. However, the man said he wanted to reassess and he was confident he would succeed. Suddenly the woman's head changed. She said that the first test was paid for by the state, but you have to pay for retakes yourself and they cost $1,000. After learning about this amount, all the boys' optimism disappeared somewhere. The woman at the table also added that they needed to make a decision quickly because they had a lot of people today. He still had hope that he could change his class, but now he was just not sure, so he promised to come next time. Deep down he was upset because he realized that he had wasted too much time and he needed to find out the prices first and then go and ask for a change. Motivated the man too much and gave him false hope that he would succeed. Sadness continued to overwhelm him. All his ideas began to lose their meaning. He thought he was just crazy and all that was left was to write web novels. Looking around he was surprised to see that there were indeed many people there, although they did not appear to be strong. With all this chaos in his head he completely forgot what we needed to write, so he decided to forget about monsters and hunters for a while. But at first he did not want to shift his gaze and began to search if there could be anything interesting in this place. At that very moment his phone began to beep and said that the blind eye of God had been activated. Ilshin was surprised because he did not know that this program could analyze people. Looking at one man from the front, his analysis said he was in his 30s and suffering from chronic fatigue. Then he looked at the pregnant woman and the analysis worked as usual and said that her name was Kim. She was 24 and she was pregnant. After that he looked at a man, showed him that he was 41 years old, his name was Kong and he had severe kidney problems. The man continued to do this for a long time, but suddenly he was surprised to see something very strange in front of him. He looked at the upset black-haired girl who was standing next to the poster inviting hunters. Her name was Song Miri. She was 19 years old and she was very depressed due to certain life circumstances, but the man became interested in the girl because he did not understand why she was so upset, because at her age all the girls were very cheerful, and it was also suspicious that he couldn't see her full name and full information about her, so he decided to come closer. The man was also surprised that the blind gods I showed some emotion in humans for the first time, which meant that this person was not simple. He decided to approach this girl to find out better what was going on and who she was. He was going to her, but he did not know what he should say, and he did not know how she could receive him, for he was a stranger. He wanted to stop because the situation could be very bad and nothing could go wrong, but he was very curious, so he kept moving towards her. He was already very close and stood with his back to Mira, feeling someone move towards her. There was no way back, so he apologized and asked her how she was feeling right now. When he asked this, he was very scared, or he thought that the girl was going to hit him right now. He thought she heard his question, so he asked her again, at which point she turned to him. When he looked into her face, all his confidence simply disappeared. It seemed to him that he had simply gone mad. However, she only got very angry, since she was not in the mood today anyway, due to the fact that she did not raise her rank. It seemed to her that this hero of ours was very dangerous for her, and because of this she activated magic in her hand, and there was an impression that she would strike him now. The frightened man understood that the situation was really bad, and because of this, he asked her to stay with him with understanding. Against the girl, she did not listen to him at all. Her magic grew even stronger. The atmosphere became worse. The man understood that it was necessary to come up with something, so he said that everything was fine with him and he was not strange. In his smartphone started ringing. He apologized to her and said that it was very important. In his head, he was infinitely grateful that the phone had saved the whole situation for him, because now he had a little break. When he looked at his phone, he was surprised to see that his demon sister was calling him. His emotions changed a lot. It seemed that he didn't care about Song Mira anymore because he was busy with something else. At that moment, Shin began to run quickly to the exit and said that it was an urgent call and he needed to answer it. Sun Miri did not understand what it was and what this strange hero of ours wanted from her at all, because they did not know each other. Then the events are transferred to the city center, where there was good sunny weather. Our smiling hero was on the street and asked for your favorite niece on the phone this time, but the person on the phone was serious because she said that the man was lazy and poor and he was only cheerful because he smelled money. The situation was bad for him, so he asked to stop doing it and to the fact that he was already at the place where he is waiting for his niece. After finishing the conversation, our hero exhaled because he never liked talking to this terrible girl and he did not envy her future husband. Then the events are transferred to a large bright park, but surprisingly, there were no people. The man was sitting at the other end of the park with his little one, who was very happy to see her uncle. Ilshin also loved his little niece very much, but he could not believe that it was his sister's child. But suddenly his thoughts were interrupted by a little niece who asked what the dark past meant. The question came and he became serious, because he realized that he had something similar recently. Holding his head, the man said that he had one incident today. The little niece looked at her uncle in surprise. However, she was very small, but she didn't mince words, and because of that she asked her uncle what the word incident meant. However, the man did not care about this question. He just looked at this cute girl and wanted to touch her cute cheeks. He cupped her face with his fingers and said she was very, very nice, but his niece didn't like it. She quickly slapped the man with her hand and asked him to stop because she was uncomfortable. Despite this, the man continued to do it, and at that moment she became very serious and shouted at him not to do it. Realizing his concession, he felt very sorry, but now he needed to make up for this situation somehow because his niece was very angry. Unexpectedly, all his thoughts stopped when a very strange message appeared in the air. As it turned out, it was the blind eye of God that automatically activated and began to analyze his little niece. A few seconds later, the analysis revealed that her name was Chai Xianyun. She was 5 years old and she wanted chocolate ice cream. And so he realized that this was the perfect chance to make amends. So he asked Xianyun if she wanted some chocolate ice cream. He also added that this is a wonderful ice cream flavor that will melt in her mouth incredibly. After this incredible description, the little girl began to salivate. All her problems seemed to be solved and she wasn't so angry with her uncle. Therefore, after some time, they went to an ice cream shop, where a girl met them and warmly welcomed them to their shop. Xianyun pointed her finger and said that she wanted this particular chocolate ice cream. Shin was not surprised because he already knew that she wanted it. With a smile, he said that he would buy everything she wanted right now and put his hand in his pocket. He collected all his coins in a handful and put them on the table and realized that he did not have enough for 2 ice creams. So he only asked for 1. The saleswoman was very surprised when she saw all these strange coins that the man put on the table in front of her. After that, she started collecting these coins and asked them to wait a little because a little unpleasant situation arose. This woman made ice cream in a glass, but our hero was not satisfied with it because it seemed to him that she put the smallest portion that she could. He thought it was all just discrimination because he paid her in coins, even though it was all really unfair. Unexpectedly, he had a very cool idea and he realized that he could solve this very problem with the help of his divine finger. He pointed his finger at the same machine that he used to give ice cream and began to use divine power. He didn't care that there was a girl standing there and she could be in trouble because she treated him very badly. At the same moment, the divine finger of the drivers and the ice cream machine started working very badly and dispensed too much ice cream for one cup. Therefore, Sunin ended up with one very large and beautiful ice cream, which she was very pleased with. Ilshin also felt hungry, so he tried her ice cream once, but she refused him. He thought all the little kids were so greedy, so he decided to leave his niece alone. They sat until the evening in the park and admired the sunset. It seemed like a really beautiful day, but at that moment the whole beautiful atmosphere was destroyed. The phone in his bag started making strange noises and loudly warning of great danger. This message really shocked the web novel author. He didn't understand what it could even be because he had never received anything like this before. Suddenly the message that the title of the killer was activated and now our hero began to worry even more, not understanding what was happening around. Then it was also reported that due to all this, his entire fighting prowess had increased beyond belief because circumstances had forced him to do so. The atmosphere was getting worse and worse because it seemed that now the man heard some very strange voice speaking from nowhere and the color of the sky changed rapidly. The unfamiliar voice continued to speak and asked to be allowed to destroy all these difficulties that our hero was going through and become a real demon. The sounds of tension were getting worse. They startled the little one and her big chocolate ice cream fell to the ground. No one understood what was happening, but everyone was already very much afraid that there must be some good reason for all these messages. After that they looked up at the sky. Something really terrible started to happen there because it split and from there you could see two red eyes looking at all the people. Suddenly the head of a giant monster and all its other parts appeared, looking directly at Ilshin and his innocent niece. The man was nothing compared to this gigantic monster, so it seemed to him that he had no chance at all in this case. Events flash back to where Song Miri has started meeting people and asking them to run as fast as possible because the situation is getting worse. The giant spiked bull roared very loudly, heading towards her at full speed to completely destroy this terrifying superheroine. Against the main character it was clear that this terrible monster did not come here to destroy the girl. He came here because of him. He looked deep into his eyes and seemed to see some incredible understanding and fear at the same time. The anti-giant bull wanted to settle all his affairs with this girl for the first time. Meanwhile the man analyzed the data of this animal and found that this animal was over 400 years old, barren, and came here to destroy the nameless god. After that the events are transferred to some other place where the man was standing near a fence and where there were no people. He looked down and kept thinking about the analysis he had managed to make. He understood that it was really very difficult for him. After thinking a little I realized that the name Nameless God belonged to him in that strange game and all this could not be just an ordinary coincidence. He reminded me of the girl who tried to protect him at the cost of her own life. It seemed that it was really a very noble concession. After the spiked bull died all was not well as very strange events continued to occur. So after all that a message came to him telling him that his abilities had been upgraded by one level. As a reward he can buy any Luhansk right in the store for free. This message came right after the big scary bull was dead, so he also realized that it was no coincidence. Because of his stupid smartphone he had a lot of new problems and problems that were dangerous not only for him but also for other people. He swung and it seemed that right now the man would throw this phone into the deep long river that was below him. He was about to drop it but suddenly his phone started vibrating and it caught the man's attention because he knew what it could be. A strange text appeared which he couldn't read again because of the very strange symbols in the middle. So he decided to stop with his plans for now and better learn about this strange message as he was very curious. What time the drivers brought to another city it was some kind of strange gate in front of which stood two guards who did not look like people. The guards were asking some god for something, got a very strong blow right in the face and it felt like it was the last blow. The second unknown creature who was with his friend was even more frightened, began to understand that now he has many times more problems due to the fact that he can bend at any second. As it turned out it was the evil red ant which was removed with red paint and which was indifferent to all other creatures. The traitor of the only cave was a girl in a white dress. She asked God to save them from terrible monsters who want to completely destroy their families. She was also an insect but she had human features because she was very beautiful and cute. But now she was scared to death. However suddenly an evil red ant came even closer to her. The animal was very happy because he finally had to find the Holy Virgin of the Black Tribe. The big monster was very serious. He said that no one would be able to escape from the soldiers of the great empire. The weather was nothing to him. The soldiers who were very happy because they succeed in everything. The terrible monster took a few more steps towards the Holy Virgin. It seemed that this was the end and the girl had no other choice. She looked at him with her model's frightened eyes and it seemed that it was the last thing she saw in her life. Suddenly a message appeared on the man's phone asking whether the nameless god would like to pray to him. This situation was very similar to him. It seemed to him that something really similar happened to him today at lunch. He also felt very small today compared to a spiked bull. Our hero understood that he needed to think very carefully because it was a big responsibility. And after that there could be terrible consequences. The little attitude looked at him with its big eyes and asked for help. I felt very sorry for her because today at lunch she looked the same. It seemed that it was all over and right now a big scary monster would destroy a small innocent creature. A big scary monster asked the Holy Virgin to accept the fact that she becomes a tribute to His Majesty. The giant mutant was sure that the mass would succeed. He looked up and was very scared. After 1 second his body was gone. Some very powerful magic beam appeared and a lot of blood appeared. The wards began. Some strange powerful lightning should be given. As it turned out this big red ant died because a man pressed his finger on the phone screen. And after that he destroyed the whole army of these monsters. All these creatures were very valuable. Therefore after their murder a lot of gold coins appeared and began to float to the ground. Meanwhile the Holy Virgin was perhaps grateful to her hero and asked that the nameless god call her his true name. This surprised the man because he did not expect that some unknown creature would ask him for his real name. But this little creature was very what it caused, so the man decided to give his real name. When the little animal found out about his real name she was very happy and said that she worships him and will do so for the rest of her life. Then there was a message that the author of the web novel managed to get the title of Merciful Savior. And at the moment he owned 2 titles, but the man did not understand how he could be a merciful savior. Thanks to this status the man's karma was changed. And now as a reward he will receive 100,000 gold coins. It was a really impressive amount. The man became optimistic again and no longer wanted to throw his phone into the river. And until now he had more than 100,000 coins on his balance. He decided to immediately open this very store of items and find some good product that he could buy. After a few minutes of searching one item came up which was called the Blessing of the God of Growth and the item was worth thousands of gold coins. A man thoughtlessly bought this item and suddenly some yellow substance flew out of his phone. It was some unknown substance of theirs stored in a strange glass form. The main character didn't know what it was so he decided to use the blind eye of God to promote all this. It was a substance that was sold during the training of the Constant Seeker. The truth is ordinary mortals will take it, then they will improve their potential to the maximum level. Everyone wanted to improve the potential to the maximum level, so the man decided to sniff this substance. The substance seemed really very strange to her but still decided to be her because she wanted to look at her maximum potential. Answers, but he felt no taste and no smell and it seemed that this divine substance did not work at all. Anger gripped him. It seemed like it was just an ordinary energizer that added a little power for a short period of time. But he once again looked at the results of the analysis and read that the more he drinks this substance the better he will be. Then it even disappeared somewhere and he decided to believe that it really works because so far he only has one small glass. So he started buying these divine substances en masse and drinking very quickly. If you look at what will happen to him. However, even after many glasses were empty the man did not feel anything in himself and it seemed that it was all a big deception. But at one moment he completely lost the ability to stand and suddenly fell to the ground feeling some kind of pain. There was a message that this man's abilities were increased several times and the assimilation with the God Store was increased. The main character just passed out and fell asleep for a while and couldn't even move because he was under a very strong effect. After some time he managed to wake up but he was very tired and did not understand what was happening at all. He also had a very bad headache. He was also surprised because he realized that he woke up in his bed and did not understand how he could be here at all. Because he remembered how he was on the bridge. Until now no one in the world had invented a teleporter. Because of this he was very scared because he did not understand who brought it to his apartment. Suddenly he heard some very strange sounds that were similar to some hissing and strange red ants started climbing under his hand. It became clear that these strange red monsters with small wings were making these strange sounds. They were no longer ants but what twisted creatures. Seeing all this, he was very scared and got up from his bed and began to throw off all these terrible creatures from his body. It was from the message that thanks to his titles the battlefield was improved, but he didn't care. He was interested. Where are you from? Where so many of these creatures appeared in his apartment? Hoping to leave his room, he began to turn the lock and open the door, but he was unable to do anything. Although everything was always in order. Little monsters wanted revenge, so she used her ex-wife, who wrote all her organs to cause maximum damage to the man. There were tens of thousands of them. They climbed, dragged, and bit the man on all parts of his body. It was only possible, realizing that he would not be able to get out through the front door. He began to look to the side and began to think about something. It seemed that he had no choice but to live only on the third floor, so it would be safe for him. Evil ants, they poked around the body, but he didn't care because he was focused on his plan, and it seemed to him that he was perfect and he would succeed in everything. Suddenly he began to doubt his idea. It seemed to him that he could get many injuries as a result of the fall, and in the end he could even die. But he actually knew what it was, and with all his might he crashed into his crown. He fell to the ground and lost consciousness in a few seconds. Due to this strong impact, the atmosphere was getting worse. It seemed that it was the end. Suddenly his eyes and was very scared. It seemed to him that he was in a trap where there was no way out from these terrible, but suddenly and once lit up with a red light. He got very angry and a strong steam started coming from his mouth. He pointed his mighty god finger at them and began to create some very strange magic ball in the air. After that, a very strong sunbeam flew on these ants and began to destroy part of their wax. It was very painful for them, so they wanted to run away from the scene. Suddenly the insect was very scared, and it would seem that it was simply impossible because this hero of ours destroyed their general with only one blow. They vowed revenge for their kind new general, so the archers began to prepare their bows and flaming arrows. After that, at the command of one important ant, they all simultaneously began to release their old ones that burned in the air. All the blows were accurate and landed directly on the man. A wild one of these arrows flew into his eyes, his mouth, and other parts of his body. It hurt a lot and he started screaming in pain. One red ant was very happy and asked if the nameless god liked receiving all these blows. He also added that it was the power of the United Empire. All the other warriors were very motivated. The main ant said that the ending in him can't do whatever they want with this horrible person. He felt very sick. Because of the bites of these terrible animals, he could not even breathe normally and suffered greatly because of it. It seemed to him that he finally lost this battle against terrible monsters, but suddenly he saw something in the corner. There was a spray against all insects. This spray gave him a new idea. It seemed to him that he had a new chance. After that, he decided to gather his strength to make the last attack. His eyes widened and he began to slowly rise to his feet. But the main monster didn't look at it anymore. It seemed to him that they had completely won the winter. He wanted to tell his king that they could celebrate. At that second, the man lying on the ground began to turn into a powerful god. Because his ears began to burn like a sun. When the terrible monsters saw this, they were very scared and realized that it was fatal for them and they needed to run away from the battlefield urgently. But it was already too late and they started disappearing right now because the man used the magic of his divine finger again. Monsters understood that it was the power of God and they were simply powerless and they had no chance. Everything around began to think to the man. It seemed that he had finally got rid of all these terrible monsters. But he was too. It seemed to him that right now he was in his own fire and his body could not move at all because of everything. And he was just in one position. Unexpectedly, a message came that an evil high-class god named Silent Nightmare had sent a gift to the man. All the man could control were his fingers, so he decided to accept the gift because he had no other choice. He couldn't feel his fingers too well, so it was very hard for him to do it, but he still managed to press the button. Yes, in this I began to feel my body again, and his finger began to shine with some kind of red light and some magic started to go around. Our hero carefully looked at all this. He saw something like this for the first time in his life.